Now these are going to be your ingredients for what we're going to make today. Of course, you're going to need about 3 to 4 pounds of chicken, which is not pictured here, of course. Some chopped red onion. I use about a half of an onion. 2 celery stalks that are chopped and diced. You're also going to need a couple of Roma tomatoes chopped up and diced. I use 3, I'm sorry. And in the little small yellow cup, you see that there are some sun-dried tomatoes. Again, we're adding dimensions to our meal, so we're going to use that. And then there is 2 cloves of garlic chopped and minced. Also, we're going to need 2 cups of rice, and then 1 can of black beans that have already been rinsed off. And then for our seasonings, you're going to need 2 tablespoons of rosemary. You're going to need 2 teaspoons of pepper, 1 tablespoon and a half of pink Himalayan sea salt, 2 teaspoons of fennel seed, 2 teaspoons of oregano, and 2 teaspoons of our herbs of Provence. And then of course I always got to put a little extra twist in it. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that is some of my special seasoning of my own. Has a little lemon zest in it and things like that. In case you're wondering what herbs of Provence is, this is my herbs of Provence. I get it at Trader Joe's, and I usually get it in a large jar. This jar, as you can see, is 2.2 ounces. So that's herbs of Provence. It's just a mixture of different herbs and spices, and it also has a little lavender in it as well. So it has rosemary, basil, sage, and lavender, along with thyme and marjoram. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Love Mom. Today we are doing another What's for Dinner. What's for dinner today? What shall we make? I think we're gonna make some volumized chicken and rice. Yes, we're gonna do some chicken and rice on 10. That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna make some chicken and rice volumized. You'll understand what I mean when I say volumized in just a minute. So today I don't have to do so much rushing because guess what? Hubby's still at work. But of course, this is still something that you can make pretty quickly, and I promise you, when you get done, the family's going to enjoy it. So just tune in. Let's get started. Now, I've already cut up, of course, most of the things that we needed, our onions and our tomatoes and things like that, and our garlic and all of that that's going to go in with this. That's going to give it a bunch of lovely flavor. But I've already started, for the sake of time, with the rice. And I've already put the chicken on to boil. Now most people, when they do chicken and rice, they put the chicken into the water, they season the water, boil it, and then put the rice in with the chicken and cook it that way. Me, I'm a little different. I'm going to show you a little different way to do it. It may take a little bit longer, but it's actually a really good thing to do. I cook my rice separately from the chicken because of the way that I'm volumizing. I don't want my food to be mushy inside of it, so I cook it separately. Now when you're cooking your rice, you're going to do 1 part rice, 2 parts water. And in this case though, I used vegetable stock because of course when you use vegetable stock or chicken stock or something like that, it gives your rice a really good flavor. You need a little salt and pepper, don't need a lot of anything. So what I've done is I use vegetable stock for my rice. I use 4 cups of vegetable stock and 2 cups of rice. You bring the water to a boil, put the rice in, and then once the rice begins to boil, you cut it all the way down on simmer, cover it with a top, and then let it cook until it's tender, which usually is about 10 to 15 minutes. And it, and the water or the stock evaporates. Now, we use brown rice. Brown rice is a little bit different, so it takes a little bit longer to cook than the white rice. And so because of that, that's why you got to kind of be careful and watch it. So we cut it all the way down and we have it simmering on the stove. Now for the sake of time, of course, I've already chopped up a lot of the things that we needed. if you're wondering what was in this bag, I forgot to do this when I was telling you the ingredients. This is a mushroom medley. They're frozen mushrooms, already cut and everything. Every now and then, of course, you know I love making things from scratch, but when you're trying to make dinner for your family, when you just got off work, you need things to make it a little bit easier. And so this is a bag of mushroom medley. They're already seasoned. They have olive oil and garlic and parsley in them. Again, y'all know I love what? Trader Joe's. This comes from Trader Joe's. It's in their freezer section. And so you keep these frozen until you're ready to use them, and then you bring them out and use them up. Now, and I'm sorry for the background noise. I got, you know, the dogs back there clowning and everything else. But this is the cabbage. We're using this to go with our meal on today. And so with our chicken and rice on today, that's volumized. So chicken and rice just a little bit different. So this is a cabbage. I have a small one because again I'm only cooking for 2 people. So we're going to cut the cabbage, and what I like to do is cut it down the sides, each side. You know, it's circular, cut it down each side, cut it off the top, and then cut a little bit more off the top. What you're trying to do is make sure that you don't cut into that core. It has a core. When you get to the core, which is just beneath here, just beneath here, you've gone too far. So you cut it, and then you get to this little small piece right here, and that is the core of it. You don't want to eat the core. Now, what you can do, what you can do with the core is what? Freeze it to use to make vegetable stock later on. So yeah, the other day we made what did we make? Broccoli soup, and we kept the stalks of the broccoli. So we're keeping the core part of the cabbage, and we're going to use that as well in our stock later. So now we're chopping up, and see it has a little brown spot, which I don't like. Some people don't mind, but I don't like the brown spots on the cabbage. So you're going to chop this up. Some people like them large, but my husband and I like our cabbage cut smaller because it's easier to chew, easier to digest, because we don't like our cabbage like super soft. So when sometimes you have to pull the leaves off. Even when you're cutting, you get down and you see like little brown spots and stuff like that. I don't like that in my cabbage. So I cut as I was saying, I cut our pieces a little smaller because you want your cabbage to have some kind of firmness when you're eating it after you cook it, because you kind of want it to be steamed and not just boiled to death, so it keeps its nutrients. So with that in mind, I cut our cabbage a little smaller, so it's easier for us to chew it and digest it. Okay, so now that we've cut up our cabbage, I already have a pot on the stove that's boiling with some, don't kill me, skin from the chicken in the water. That way it makes a little more flavor. Of course, if you are a vegetarian that doesn't eat any meat products at all, or a vegan that doesn't eat any animal products, you would use vegetable stock in your cabbage instead of chicken stock. Stock, but I like to use the chicken stock because it gives it a little more flavor, and instead of putting pieces of chicken in it, I put the skin from the chicken, because you gotta use it for something, just for that little bit of flavor. And my husband eats meat. I don't really eat meat anymore, so I try to find ways to make both of us have some flavor. So, and I don't mind meat, I just don't, well, we'll talk about that later. Sorry, rambling. Okay, so we have this all cut up. We're going to put this in a bowl and set it to the side and get it ready to go into the water for the cabbage. Now, in this pan here, of course, you probably have figured out by now that this is one of my favorite pans to saute in. I'm going to put some coconut oil, and my coconut oil comes in these little packs here like this, because it gives you perfect portion. Let me pull it back some so you can see. It gives you perfect portion with your oil. And again, I got this at where? Trader Joe's. They come in the little packs. You can get it, of course, in a jar and in a bottle and things like that, but I like it that way because it keeps me from being too heavy-handed with the oil, which I can be. So I'm gonna drop this in. I've already cut it on, so it's already hot. And in the pan next to it, I have my chicken broth basically going with my water and my skin from the chicken. Okay, so now when that melts down, that oil melts down, we're gonna twirl it. If it doesn't melt fast enough, just pick up the pan and twirl it around, it'll melt right away. And inside of this pan, we're gonna put our onions and celery. And you know, I am a fan of sauteing first, so that it wouldn't take forever for it to cook. I'm gonna stir that around a little, mainly because those are the harder parts. Those are the firmer vegetables that's going in, and because they're firmer than the tomatoes, you really kind of want the tomatoes to be, excuse me, I'm sorry, you really kind of want the tomatoes to be the last thing you put in. We're now going to put in our garlic that we've already chopped up. And just go ahead and saute that around until it gets glossy. What you're looking for is kind of a shiny look. When I say glossy, see if I can get it up close so you can see it. You see how it's getting kind of shiny. You're looking for that glossy look. You don't want it to cook all the way down to where it looks completely wilted. You just want it to be glossy. Make sure that your stove is not up too high. You want it like on medium high or medium, so you're not cooking things too fast. Now that we have that going, we're going to drop in our tomatoes. I bet you're saying, oh my God, I have never seen anybody cook chicken and rice like this with all this stuff in it. Probably not, but I'm a big fan of making it healthy and good for you, but also making it hearty so you're not hungry later. So you find ways to just volumize it. And extra here, these are sun-dried tomatoes. We're gonna just throw those in. They really don't need to cook, they're already pre-done, but we like to put everything together and let it, what I say, marry. Let the flavors marry each other. Okay, now, what we're gonna do here is, I bet you were wondering, why was that Worcestershire sauce, Worcestershire, however you say it, over there when we were looking at the ingredients? Because Worcestershire sauce, although it's a little salty, this is the low salt, low sodium one. Although it's a little bit salty, it gives stuff a bit of a robust flavor sometimes. So I'm just going to give you about 3 dashes, 1, 2, 3 of the Worcestershire sauce in with the veggies. Okay? And no, we're not going to season the veggies this time, and I'm going to show you why in just a minute. So those look about ready. So now I'm going to reach over here and check on my rice, which looks really good, by the way, and it looks like it's done. Now take this rice, and I'm going to toss it in with the veggies. How about that? Look at that there. Okay, yeah, she's crazy, man. I'm telling you, she's doing crazy stuff. Now keep in mind that my rice is cooked, but it's not cooked completely. And even though I let it, it's brown rice, and like I said, brown rice takes a little longer to cook. And so it's cooked, but it's not completely, totally cooked. So, and there's a reason for that, because when I finish mixing everything together, I'm going to let it simmer for a little while, and you want the rice to be cooked, but not mushy. And yes, here we go with my trusty spoon that I've had like forever. Okay. Because now I put the rice in, so I need something a little bit more heavy duty, you know what I'm saying? And of course, you see, it's all worn, yeah, because I've had it forever, but I love this spoon. So now, we're going to mix that around together. Okay, now, our chicken is done. You know, we boiled it, and we put seasonings in with it. But the thing about chicken and rice is, of course, you would love to debone it. Sometimes you don't have time. And so sometimes I do leave the bones in. So as that's cooking, what I'm getting ready to do is we're going to take our chicken, drain the water off, and then we're going to incorporate that in here. We're not going to put the seasonings in yet because we want all of this flavor right here to marry first. So we're going to cut this way down and put it on low and let that sit for just a couple of minutes while we get the chicken ready to go in. Now our water for our cabbage is pretty much ready. We've already, well, not water, excuse me. I'm using some broth that I made from the skin of the chicken. If I can find my big fork that just disappeared on me, we're going to use this though. So I took the skin of the chicken here and made some broth with it. We've already put some pink Himalayan sea salt and pepper in it. And just a little pepper. Again, I told you my husband has acid reflux, so I have to be careful with pepper for him. Now I'm going to show you guys a trick. You probably think it doesn't work, but it does. If you're boiling something on the stove and you want it to keep from boiling over, you take your little wooden spoon and lay it over top just like that. I promise you it works. I don't know how it works, but it does. Now, the water in here is boiling and ready. So we're going to take it and turn it down a little bit to medium high because we don't want it to cook too fast. And as you can see, I don't know if you can tell, the water, let me try to get some of the steam away. The water is actually not that high. And I bet you ain't seen a pot like that in a long time. That's old school, man. Brown glass, yes. But it's not very high because you only put about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of water in the bottom of your pot when you're making cabbage, because cabbage makes its own water. And so because the cabbage makes its own water, you want to make sure that you don't have too much in it so it doesn't get soggy. So we're going to take our bowl of cabbage and we're going to put that into the broth. And it's already, the broth has already been seasoned, so you don't have to put any salt or pepper or anything into that broth because you've already seasoned it. I'm sorry, into that cabbage because you've already seasoned it. So we put it in, and you see it has covered up all of the liquid on the bottom. Let me see if I can get the camera to act right. Please forgive. Oh, there we go. So it's already covered up all the liquid on the bottom. And let's back up a little bit. There we go. It's covered up all the liquid on the bottom and you just see this dry. Okay, so now Kim, how is it going to make its own water and it's all covered up? It's going to burn. It's not going to taste right. How about this? You're going to take a top and put it on there, and guess what's going to happen? It's going to create its own steam, and it's going to steam the cabbage. Create its own steam, and the cabbage is going to steam its own. So what you're going to do is turn that down to medium so that it can do it slowly and it doesn't cook too fast while you're finishing up the rest, okay? Okay, so now that we have been letting that simmer a little while, we're going to go ahead and put in our mushrooms. Again, we are volumizing it. We use some frozen mushrooms just for the sake of time because they work pretty good. You don't have to spend a lot of time chopping and everything and seasoning. And these are already done for you. So we're going to go ahead and put those in. What happened to my spoon? Oh my gosh. So... oh, sorry. You know, I can't function without a trusty spoon, so we're going to go ahead and put those mushrooms in and start mixing them around. And I bet you're wondering, what the heck did she do? And see, there's a bone from the chicken. So instead of going through all of the trouble of deboning, I put in one piece because I wanted to kind of see what it looked like. But instead of going through all the trouble of deboning, you can actually just put it in, and then as you go through, you know, pick up big bones. And because when I was younger, when my mom or my grandmother would make chicken and rice, they never took the bones out. So I just kind of got used to it that way. And my grandmother used to say, because it makes it a little more juicy, you know. But I bet you were wondering, what is she going to do with those beans? Well, we've already put all of our sauteed veggies in. We put in our mushrooms. Now we're going to take these black beans, and guess what that adds? Extra protein. So we're going to put the black beans in. Get those stirred around and incorporated. This is going to be really good, and this is a good kind of one-pot meal almost. Almost, not quite, because you still got your cabbage on the side here. But this is kind of a good, you know, one-pot thing that you can do. The only problem is you can do it in one pot. Like I said, my issue is I don't usually do do it to the point where my chicken and my rice is cooking together. And my reasoning for that is because sometimes the chicken is going to take a little longer to cook, especially if it was frozen. When I put it in, I might have forgot to take it out the freezer or something like that before I left the house that morning. All of that other stuff in. We have our chicken that we've already drained off. I took about a half a cup of the broth from the chicken and put it in the bottom here with the rice and everything. Okay, now we're going to put in our seasonings. So we're just going to dump all that in there together. Okay. And mix that around. And again, we're going to let it what? Marry each other. We're going to let that food say, I do, and I do. And the honeymoon is the chicken. Okay. Now, of course, because I don't really eat meat, I've made some of this on the side of what I did before. What I'm going to do before I put chicken in it, I'm going to put more chicken in it actually, because I can push the little bit that I put in there to the side. I'm going to pull some of this out and put it to the side. And I pulled out my little piece. I'm putting this on here. I'm going to go ahead and put my chicken in. As you can see, yes, there are still bones in it, and that is okay. Because like I said, my grandmother used to say that the bones make it even more juicy and flavorful. So yes, there's still bones in it. And like I said, a lot of times when people are making chicken and rice, they don't remove the bones. They just cook everything in the pot together. But because I'm special, I always got to do something a different way. So now what I make sure I don't leave in when I'm mixing is that little gristle part. I don't leave that in. That's just annoying. To no end with me is the gristle part. So I never leave that in. Excuse me. I saw big bones sticking up, and see, as you're going through, you can actually pick the bones out, the big ones that are giving you trouble. And that's what I do. I try to get as deboned as possible, but sometimes you can't get it all, so I just choose to do it this way. It's a little easier for me. Now, you don't have to do it this way. You can completely debone it. You can debone it before you cook it. You can debone it after you cook it. It's up to you. Well, one of the reasons why this chicken was not deboned prior to me cooking was because I forgot to take it out of the freezer this morning before I left going to work. So when I got home, the chicken was frozen. And I was like, oh my God, I have to cook and my chicken's frozen. So I boiled it. I decided, hey, we're going to have chicken and rice for dinner tonight because we're going to boil this chicken. And of course you can't debone it if it's frozen. So, so that's me just being completely and totally transparent with you all. Okay. So now I got all of that out. I think I got all the bones out. I hope I did. I mostly did. Most of the bones out. And so we're mixing that together and letting that marry. We've already put all of our seasoning in and everything. So now what are we going to do? We're going to cover this up and let it simmer so the rice can finish cooking for about 7 to 8 minutes, maybe 10, depending on your rice. Because like I said, brown rice takes a little longer than white rice. So we're going to let that simmer for a few minutes. We're going to put a top on it and let it simmer. And we'll be right back to finish it off. Okay, everyone, there we have it. We have made our chicken and rice volumized. We have some mushrooms, some black beans, some onions and bell peppers and tomatoes and sun-dried tomatoes in there, and it's really, really good with our steamed cabbage. This one is mine. It has no chicken in it, so we have chicken in everybody else's but no chicken in mine. It's very delicious. Go ahead and give this recipe a try. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's on one of those sides. I think it's this one over here, but it may be this one. But hit the subscribe button and take a look at some of our other videos and see if there's something that you like. If you have any suggestions or any questions, put them in the comment below. And thank you so much for watching and taking part in our kitchen experience today. God bless you. Have a beautiful evening. This is What's for Dinner, and happy cooking. Take a bite now.